This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. It's the program ostensibly about sports that we started during a global sports shutdown, and it feels like we're going to continue into the second one. I'm Geoff Brault alongside Dr. Keith Strudler, the director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Our producer is Mike Wallace, and let us be the first to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. For those of us hanging out on the For the Fans network, it is officially Thanksgiving Day. If you're listening to this in the podcast form, wherever audio podcasts are served, your Thanksgiving has passed. I hope you had a very nice socially distant affair. But hey, on Wednesday night / Thursday morning, depending on what you consider midnight, it is Thanksgiving Day in America. And Keith, if you're a person who follows this program, you've been part of more than one episode, you know we often disagree on a lot of things. Okay. One thing I don't think we disagree on is that Thanksgiving is pretty overrated as a holiday.
It's a terrible holiday. It's an affront to America. Look, let's leave all the historical reasons why you might take umbrage with the holiday of Thanksgiving, which is kind of built on false premises. Let's leave aside. Let's let the historians deal with why one might want to disparage Thanksgiving. We're going to take Thanksgiving in its modern celebrated form, right? We're going to take Thanksgiving. When we say Thanksgiving, what we are talking about is the time-honored tradition of traveling across the country, although it's highly discouraged by the CDC, although people don't seem to be listening to that as much as they should. But the time-honored tradition of fighting traffic, fighting airports, going to someone's house, a family member, sitting there all day, waiting until whatever time to shove your pie hole with food that to be quite honest, isn't all that good, because if it were good, you would eat it all year long.
It's exactly right. That is such a good take.
and shoving yourself uncomfortably full, watching football games of teams that you have zero interest in. Zero. All of a sudden, we care about the Lions and the Cowboys. Like now, all of a sudden, I care, right? Wading through all of that, having miserable conversations with relatives that I probably don't like all that much, having those uncomfortable moments over and over and over again, sitting there talking to some cousin or uncle who's probably 4 days removed from detox or rehab or whatever, right? and hoping he doesn't have a breakdown in the middle of dinner because someone else uncorked a third bottle of wine. And then it's just uncomfortable. And then you don't need all the real conversations that start to happen about, someone's like, oh, what do you think about the election? And here we go. Here we go. Hey, so how's your career coming? Right? Well, same job, right? I mean, all the judgment, all that. And as a vegetarian, I see this as it's just a giant murder festival anywhere. The entire house is a slaughterhouse as far as I'm concerned. I celebrate with a tofurkey, which is the only way to have not only a clean plate, but a clean conscience. And then, by the way, then let's be quite honest, 3 days off, like you're because it's Wednesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you got a 5-day kind of situation. It's too long. I got nothing, I got nothing to do with my kids. I got nothing to do. We're stuck. So there's really nothing to do. I'd rather them go back to school. To be honest, by Friday, I'm ready to go back to work anyway. The whole thing stinks. It's the travel. It's an artificial travel situation when we don't need the aggravation, right? We're going to be traveling for Christmas holidays. And by the way, you're next, Christmas holidays. You're next. You're traveling for that. I have to force my way through a very expensive travel period 3 weeks before I got to do it again, just so I can go get into an argument with someone I don't like. What's the point? What is the point?
Keith, that is one of the most correct things I've ever heard you say. I don't know what I agree with more. Let's start with the food. If the food was good, you would eat it all year long.
Have you ever been at a restaurant and been like, you know what? I'd rather want the steak. Do you have like some dry turkey? Maybe.
Right. Do you
What
have
is this,
the
the
roast
Renaissance
turkey?
Festival?
Excuse me. Do you have stuffing? Nobody asks for that. Nobody. Cranberry sauce might be the worst food that people force themselves to consume.
Let me tell you what. When I was watching a Food Network show and the thing that they picked was like a can with fruit in it. The person that got cranberries was very disappointed. They were below the mandarin orange lady, and that's a bad one.
Way behind. And I got to tell you, I think of the people the same way I think of the food. If you liked them, you'd see them more than once a year.
Yeah. By the way, is there a worse dessert in America than a pumpkin pie? A pumpkin pie.
The dessert is the
awful.
one place where I think there's something to be said for Thanksgiving. Now, I would prefer, of course, an apple pie over a pumpkin pie, as I think any sane red-blooded American would. But I don't hate the pumpkin pie.
How would you feel? How would you feel if on your birthday they're like, you know what, Jeff? I know we were going to make a cake, but here I got your pumpkin pie instead.
So that's also tough. Have we talked about the fact that I'm not a big cake person on this show?
I
don't really care for cake that much.
Well, that's ridiculous because I actually think on the pantheon of great foods, generally speaking, it's pizza number one, wedding cake number two. Wedding cake is my second favorite food to eat.
No.
Wedding cake number two.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. The problem with cake is there's usually too much icing. That's my issue with cake. Like, you know those cupcakes that you can get where the icing's piled way up high? I can't. No. I don't like that situation. I actually like the cake. It's the icing that I have a problem with.
Well, that's stupid. And I actually think, you know what I do? I sometimes just go out and buy cans of frosting and eat them straight from the can.
Yeah. I actually, one of my college roommates did that, and his nickname then became Funfetti. So we started calling him Funfetti. Because he would come home at night, 3 a.m, and just rip into the funfetti icing. If he was having a really good night, he would dip an Oreo into the funfetti icing. Yeah, and make that a snack. No, I don't hate the thing. I think I don't hate the Thanksgiving dessert. My family is French Canadian, and actually makes a traditional French Canadian dessert. It's sort of like a vanilla meringue type pudding ish thing with ladyfingers in it. It's really good.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. That sounds awful.
It's delicious. It's delicious. It's light. By the way, airy.
You have as you've described your kind of holiday festivities with you and your family. It's a very formal affair. You acknowledge each other, father.
Well, we all put on our tuxedos, and yes, it is a very formal affair. We're father, mother. How hath the harvest treated you? I hope it was bountiful.
I see it as a highly unemotional event. I'd rather go, like, if I were going to go to a Thanksgiving, I'd rather it be like an Italian Thanksgiving where at least they're bringing out like real food. I like the ethnic Thanksgivings. Like ours is better because my mom, no matter what, was making matzo ball soup. No matter what holiday it is, matter what holiday it is, we're getting noodle kugel and matzo ball soup. So you got all the Jewish foods, and then you'd throw on whatever else was for the holiday. That's the way to do it.
So I'm actually a little jealous of you in that respect. Like I would love to experience ethnic Thanksgivings. Sure. Like I've only obviously ever had the type of Thanksgiving that my family has.
We like the waspy kind.
Yeah, the very waspy kind. You wonder if there's a smallpox blanket somewhere in the basement. But I would like, because the one thing that I think that Thanksgiving has going for it is it's a quintessential American holiday. It's the 4th of July and Thanksgiving that no matter, what religion you are, where you come from, if you're here in America, Thanksgiving is something that you have a stake in. Sure. And I would like to see,
at least up until this election, of course, right? Yes. Well, this America.
I guess there's 2 Americas. That's a great question. Which America would have a better Thanksgiving? I don't think it's liberal America. There's no way it's liberal America.
Well, I will tell you though, as a vegetarian, I don't do well in the red American Thanksgiving. Because I believe in the red American Thanksgiving. No offense to all our red American sportish fans. I believe in that version. You eat what you kill.
which I am actually fine with. Like that, sometimes that's you want to know the entire life cycle of your Thanksgiving meal, and I got no problem with
that. So, all right, the only other problem with Thanksgiving, and there's many, the other problem I would suppose is you also feel bad if you're not partaking in this awful festivity. So there's no way out. You either are in a situation where you're miserable and you're uncomfortable and you're stuck in someone. By the way, you think the worst part about a Thanksgiving is when you're not even in the center of the sphere of influence. Like when you're an interloper, when you're out, like when you're doing it with like the in-laws or something, like, because then you're not even in on the joke, right?
Yeah, sure.
Then you're really uncomfortable and you're just literally looking at your watch, counting the minutes. So that's even worse. But if you don't partake in this, then you're sitting at your house all by yourself, feeling sorry for yourself. Now, would you feel sorry for yourself if you were alone on Thanksgiving? Would you feel sorry for yourself?
No. And especially not this particular Thanksgiving.
Now you have an excuse.
Where, so my family lives all over the country, and we are actually not gathering today for Thanksgiving because, my closest relatives live in Pennsylvania, and, people are saying don't travel. Most of my family is older. My parents are older. My grandmother is older.
And of course, you are not an only child. And I'm
an only child. Correct. So could you tell? So we're not traveling for Thanksgiving. And that's true of a number of people that I know that are up here in New York where I live. So like 6 or 7 of us that are not really doing anything are all going to one person's house, and we're going to have a little Thanksgiving there of the people that are.
That doesn't seem particularly safe either.
Listen, I think it's actually pretty safe. We're all people that are around each other, whether it's at work or whether it's, we're all in the same sphere. So these aren't people that no one's seen in months. Everybody lives in the same place. So it's not
They're
like
going to be tested. Are you going to be tested before you
We
walk in
are.
the house?
Yes, we are. Almost all of us work for institutions that require or at least provide some sort of testing. So I think it's about as safe as it really can and should be done. That said, your mileage may vary. Everybody has to make their own choice with what they're comfortable with. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a great day. Okay. We're not here to preach.
By the way, on my holiday table this Thanksgiving, we'll have a what I believe they call a field roast, which is made of tofu.
Okay. So neither of those two words are correct. It's never been in a field, and it's never been roasted.
Well, to be fair, it almost all was in a field. All of it. It was all grown. So we will have that kind of field roast. I don't know what else is on the menu, but we will not have pumpkin pie. I'm going to try to work my way in for some kind of chocolate mousse situation. There's an Italian bakery down the street. I'll probably work my way into that as well.
And are you just in an immediate family situation?
Yeah. Well, we've kind of parsed our way down to immediate family anyway. I mean, we've not by choice. Family spread out. We don't want to have to deal with it. There's a lot of politics.
Yep.
So I don't need to go anywhere. We'll just sit right here. I would like to. The only thing I do miss, I do like going into the city the holiday weekend to go watch a basketball tournament. That to me is a rite of passage. So I'd either head to the Barclays Center or the Garden. I'd like to go watch one of these preseason basketball tournaments. This will be one of the times I actually feel the worst about COVID, because it is a total rite of passage for me to go watch one of these tournaments the Friday or Saturday after Thanksgiving. I love doing that.
These multi-team events are usually a lot of fun. That's where you get your best preseason matchups. You start to figure out, all right, who might be good this year, what players might be, better than advertised, or who maybe doesn't have quite the cachet. They're going to play some of these games.
It's usually an affordable ticket based versus the value. You'll spend $50 and you'll get a decent seat to go watch, 3 or 4 nationally ranked teams. It's as good as it gets.
These MTEs are sort of happening, right? Mohegan Sun's trying to do something. The thing in South Dakota is sort of hanging on by a thread. But here's what is happening. College basketball season, it's coming. And today, Thursday morning, it's probably already started. So we record on Monday night. There are games scheduled for November 25th, which is Wednesday. So as we're speaking to you, it could be on the tail end of a 2 overtime game played in a cavernous arena somewhere in South Dakota. I like college basketball probably more than any other sport. I'm on one hand happy that they're trying to play college basketball. On the other hand, I do not like this idea that every governor in America, at least in a blue state, every doctor, every epidemiologist is saying, don't travel for Thanksgiving. Stay put. Cases are spiking everywhere. And we've got 600 college basketball teams crisscrossing the country to play each other. It's talking out of both sides of your mouth. It's not setting a good example. And, I feel like when they're telling me not to go see my grandma for Thanksgiving, but they're telling these college basketball kids to just go ahead, get on out there, it doesn't send the right message to me.
It doesn't send the right message. Now, to be fair, you would assume and hope that they are taking a little bit more stringent safety precautions than, your cousin who's 3 sheets to the wind and is hitchhiking his way after a couple of highballs to get to grandma's house. So you would hope, and again, this is all aspirational. You would hope that the universities, remember, the teams aren't that big. It's not like a football program. So you got 12, 14 people, you got some couple of coaches, whatever, that you are able. Now, look, it's a lot easier if you're a program like Kentucky, where you got a private jet and you really can make this pretty simple. It's a little bit more challenging for any of these teams that fly commercial, which I suppose in the end of the day is the majority of them past the big program. So yes, I understand why it seems hypocritical, disingenuous, and so forth. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and to say they are going to be doing a better job than the average person would do. And let's also assume part of the challenge with this holiday travel is that you are going to be mixing it up with people that you shouldn't be mixing it up with, right? All these people from it's just a big giant petri dish of nonsense. You got people from all over the country bringing whatever they got. They'll throw some COVID, a little flu, maybe a little gonorrhea. Who knows?
just a veritable poo-poo platter of disease.
Just bring it all in.
Bring it all. America is a tapas restaurant of epidemics.
What do you want? A little gangrene? What do you want? Anyone?
European style dining meets European style plagues.
Anyone feeling like some gout here? It's not contagious though, but still, it's one of my favorite diseases. I feel like every king at some point.
Do you have a ranking of favorite diseases?
Well, I mean,
who has a favorite disease?
A leaderboard. I'll tell you right now. That's going to be our next favorite four. Our top four. Well, gout, because gout is like the disease of like estimable royalty. Like every king.
Say, don't they call it the rich man's disease? Yeah.
So who wouldn't like you get gout because you've been living a little too high on the horse, right? I mean, that's how you get gout. You've had too much butter poured down your throat and not moved more than like 5 feet in your entire lifetime. So that's how you get gout. So I would hope that the teams that are traveling, they will be creating. Look, schools are going home, students are going home, and they are not returning in many, if not most cases. Look, at Montclair, we just announced the classes are going to start on February 8th. So think about that. And they're leaving for Thanksgiving holidays. They'll finish out their classes online, but they will not come back to campus until almost mid-February. So you're looking at closing in on 3 months. It's, between 2.5 and 3 months that the student body will be gone, right? You can, depending on what these programs are doing, and obviously Montclair is a Division III program, so it's not going to be the same as you'd expect at a D1 program, but it'll be kind of similar. You're going to put a bubble over these things. You're going to tell them not to go anywhere. If, again, as we talked about, you can do things if the team is willing and capable and able that families and Thanksgiving. The problem with the families and Thanksgiving is all bets are off once they get into the house. Everyone knows this. All bets are off. And human nature seems, I cannot tell you the number of times I walk around and have to remind people to put their mask on all the time. And it's just, and fortunately I have a little bit of authority. They listen to me and then they take it off like 45 seconds later, but they listen to me while I'm there. So I don't want to conflate the Thanksgiving travel with the basketball travel too much.
But what I conflate with it, and because I agree with everything you just said, and let's just say for the sake of argument that every basketball team is doing everything 100% the safest way possible.
Sure.
It's the wrong message to be putting out there. It's another instance of allowing people to deny that this is a serious problem, of forcing people into this idea that normality is a lot closer than we think, right?
Sure.
It just allows people to to not take seriously the situation that we're in. And if you look at any sort of statistic or anything like that, we are in a relatively dire situation when it comes to this virus.
This is the part where it's the drain starts to have that funnel.
Yeah. So if you don't care about that, or you don't follow the news particularly closely, or whatever, you can see all this happening and think that everything is more fine than it really is. So, I mean, believe me, the people I know in the college basketball world are following the protocols, are doing what they're supposed to be doing, are acting as responsibly as you can act. But to me, it's always been about messaging and about optics, because if you're going to beat this thing, you need people to start believing that it's serious. And we got way too many people that don't.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lose-lose situation in this, because look, you could, could you cancel your basketball season like the Ivy Leagues has essentially done? Yeah, I guess you can. I don't know that that's going to change I think at this point, we are at a point where everyone's pretty much had it, right? Now maybe, no, I mean, but
both had it and had it. Yeah.
But by the way, gout is still available.
Still number one. Want a little extra syrup on that.
And I think your pathway to gout is butter. I've always felt like that's the secret. Butter and lard, if that's your thing, you know.
But here's what doesn't need to be happening. College basketball teams don't need to be flying anywhere. There's 350 of these. You can find ones to play regional. You can be doing home and home. Like there are ways you can do it that limit the optics and that limit the risk.
Well, and I think, some coaches had said that early on, that they didn't want to go to these faraway tournaments. I agree. You're 14. Look, we both used to watch one that was up at Marist. That was a lot of fun that went away. Sure. The Pepsi Challenge. You got 4 teams of about the same caliber. They'd come in and they'd play a little round robin, and it was fine. And that was the way you kick off your season. You didn't have to go to Atlantis in the Bahamas, although that was much more fun. But you're 100% right that if you, first of all, you're right in the fact that you don't actually need to play preseason tournaments. You can, you can play a season without doing this. Although I will say, for those that at this point still care about the authenticity of what they're doing, which I think probably is beyond us caring about, it is starting to become very apparent, if you're watching college football, that you have no idea how good Cincinnati really is. No idea, right? I'm like, well, BYU's undefeated. I don't know what that means, because they have not ventured outside of their conference. I don't know how good any of these conferences actually are. So it for those that believe in the sanctity of this experiment that we're going through. I understand you want to pick a tournament. Like, I don't know the 4 teams that are supposed to be in the college football playoffs. I have no idea at this point, because
3 of them never change: Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. And so then the 4th is it's a rotating 4th.
Right. But I don't know if that should be Cincinnati right now. I'm hoping it's the Gators, but I couldn't tell you. So I think that is part of why they're trying to make that happen. By the way, I also think that we're basically at this point just holding on for the vaccines, and they're trying to figure out how to get these teams. Yep. And can we get a quick, because we had this conversation earlier. I think it deserves noting. 2 vaccines have come out with a 95% effectiveness rate, according to their initial.
To be fair, one vaccine came out at 90%. And then 3 days later, the second vaccine comes out and says, 95%.
No, they were 94.5. And then they came back out and said, I'm 95 now.
I believe the first one came out as 90. The other one came out as 95. And then the first one came back with that 94.5 number.
Okay. So there's a little posturing going on.
But you can't feel good about the fact that success rate has been going down.
There
have been more vaccines released. There's one released in the 70s now. In the 70s.
But here's what I
got some lemons.
I'm very disappointed. I was assuming I had put my money on the Oxford vaccine all along.
That was the worst one.
No, but I understand that. But Oxford is, by all accounts, the finest university in the world, right? It's Oxford, Cambridge.
No.
Oxford
never
right now.
Never send a Brit to do a German's job. The vaccine creation, that to me is where Germans thrive.
But how does Oxford end up with basically a C- at this point? A C-. C-. And are you now comfortable? Look, for all these students out there that are going after it every day in the classroom, hoping for one of those coveted spots at Oxford University, I mean, what's the point? What is the point? And I've said this before. If I'm Cambridge, I am jumping all over this in the recruiting wars. All over this.
Here's what I wonder. Why did Oxford release that at all? Like, there's 3 other vaccines that are out there that seem reasonably effective. Why weren't they just like, you know what, ours didn't come out so great.
Don't even worry about it.
You know what? We looked at it. I think yours is better.
What we'll do is we'll hold ours in reserve. And then if yours runs out, what we'll do.
Guys, it's nice to have a backup plan. It's nice to have a backup plan. If push comes to shove.
We don't want to get into it. He said, she said, East Coast, West Coast. Well, let's go with your vaccine. What if is there a chance that one of them comes out and they're like, guys, we just got our numbers back, 12%. You actually have a much better chance. I'm waiting for the one that just fails miserably.
Speaking of percentages, 16% November 23rd, the evening of November 23rd, when we're recording this discussion, that is the number of Division I men's basketball teams that are on pause, that are not able to compete right now because of the coronavirus. So even if all these basketball teams are doing everything correctly, before anyone has started moving about the country, 16% have run up against their COVID protocols.
It seems like now the rules in many of these, and I know that there's different sets of protocols and processes, but it does seem as if one person in the program tests positive, your whole situation might be shut down, right?
So the way that it works right now, and again, there is some talk that the Power 5 conference is going to go to daily testing, sort of like what the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are doing in football. The smaller schools aren't going to be able to do that. I can't reasonably see that them being able to do that financially. As it stands right now, you have tiers. So you designate tiers of people around your program. Tier 1 is players, coaches, and immediate support staff, like the athletic trainer. And then some schools are defining that a little more broadly. Some schools are keeping it to as tight a circle as they possibly can. A tier 1 positive is a 14-day shutdown. One tier 1 positive. So if your athletic trainer catches the coronavirus, 14-day shutdown for the entire program. And then, by the way, you don't just get to jump in on day 14 and go play a game. There's a ramp-up period that you need so that you can have practices and whatnot before you can actually go get into a game. That's for safety's sake.
Yeah, I got to tell you, at that point, I'm playing with a 7-man rotation. I don't need I mean, do I need the 12th guy on the bench who does not contribute quite a bit? And by the way, also, so tell me, you like to talk about how you're an integral part of the success of your program. Are you, as a broadcaster, you must be tier 1.
2. Well, it depends. So tier 1, you usually have to be in the travel party. No one is responsibly traveling media with the team this year. That's a foolish thing to be doing. No. But there have been discussions in, conference level among coaches. Should programs travel their entire roster? Should you take the walk-ons? Should you take the practice players? Like, there are very legitimate reasons not to bring the people that aren't going to play.
No, it makes no sense to bring. Look, you don't need your 3 last people on the bench if you know the odds. If you're almost certain you won't use them, why would you? Because there's an exponential risk with each person you add. Right, we're doing exponential. We're doing those equations right now in 8th grade, so I'm quite familiar with this. But it does seem as if there's no reason. I do think, because I know we're going to be moving on. I do think. Look, I understand why they're starting. I think it's going to be really difficult for this to go well. It does seem like we are going, unlike football, which has fits and starts, and there's fewer teams, and maybe you can do a pod system. Like, hey, I told you, center, never to get that close to my point guard. What if the coaches are like, guys, I told you to stop running the floor.
Spacing has never been more important than in 2020. You're right. It is time to move on. And I want to move on to Clemson, Florida State football, a game that did not happen last week. We have given Clemson more guff than just about any program. They seem to be leading the nation in COVID positives and lack of concern for COVID protocols. Just don't ask them that. They'll tell you they do everything by the book. So Clemson, Florida State did not happen in Tallahassee because on Friday, Friday morning, Clemson tested all their players. Then they got on a plane, flew to Tallahassee. And when that plane landed and they checked into the hotel, they found out they had a positive from one of their backup offensive linemen. That's what was reported in the media.
And Florida State, by the way, having a terrible season.
Terrible.
Florida State has fallen off the cliff.
Yep. Yeah. I believe they're 2-4. Clemson is 7-1 and right now in the college football playoff picture. Clemson informs Florida State of this, that they had a positive. The medical folks from each of the schools talked. There is a rule in the ACC this year that the games will only be played if both schools agree. And Florida State did not agree to play Clemson because they did not feel safe playing a team that traveled with a COVID positive player who was, by the way, exhibiting symptoms. And Florida State said, we're not going to do that. Clemson said, we followed all the protocols exactly the way we should. There's no reason you shouldn't play this game. Dabo Swinney went so far as to say that the game was not canceled because of COVID. COVID was the excuse given to cancel the game. So that's where we're at now. Teams fighting over who is taking the virus too seriously.
Let me tell you what. You could have made a lot of money by betting the idea that Florida State University would be the voice of reason when it comes to sports and COVID.
And you know what? And this should be said, Florida State has not had a COVID positive since, I believe, the middle of September.
So there you go.
That should give you an idea of who's handling the virus better. So
clearly, and Florida State then clearly outperforming my school, Florida Gators, which has done a Clemson-like job in yes. So it does seem the schools, I will say, LSU being the outlier, these COVID-heavy schools seem to be doing really well in the polls. Right? Alabama, Florida, Clemson, we seem to be Notre Dame, what's happening? Ohio State, where are you right now? Right? Where is your COVID progress? Do you think that should be a factor? Should the committee take into the factor and be like, look, they have almost equal resumes. I mean, you can look at Ohio State, you can look at Florida, very similar resumes. Florida did have more COVID. We're going to have to give them the nod. They did manage to really take full advantage of the opportunity that was presented to them to take the virus into the locker room. Ohio State, they both had the opportunity. It's the one opponent they're all playing. It's the one common opponent.
It's the one common opponent. Strength of schedule, 0.
So that Dabo Swinney, again, clearly unable to let anyone lead the crazy train in college coaching. Dan Mullen wanted that crown. Dabo Swinney said, not so fast, my friend. I am a multi-time national champion, and I'm going to show you the way. It seems ludicrous. Look, there are theories now, obviously, that Florida State just doesn't want to play Clemson. Now, by the way, they probably don't want to play Clemson all that much. I mean, the team is in absolute disarray. Everyone's talking about what happened to Florida State. Is Bobby Bowden still alive? This is actually that's a serious question. Is Bobby Bowden still alive? I'm asking that not as a rhetorical right now, but how do we get this program back, right? And so they probably don't want to play. There's going to be relatively few people in the stands. They don't make any money off these games at this point. So there is no real incentive for them. That may be, look, if Florida State were 7-0 and they were playing Clemson for a playoff berth, it would be interesting to see how much they cared as much. But you do have to, and the follow-up to Dabo Swinney's comment was, if they want to play us, they can come to Clemson next time. Yeah. We are not
or pay for our travel to go back to Tallahassee. Yeah.
They're basically like, we are not coming back down to Tallahassee. You can find your way up to South Carolina to play the next game. I don't know what I don't realize. And again, you're getting into a lot of protocol and it's the rules versus what's right to do. I don't know how Dabo Swinney with a straight face can say, Florida State, you're crazy. How, right. I don't understand. They know only a couple of things. And one of those things is they had a COVID positive athlete traveling on the plane with the rest of the team
Right.
before the game. That's the only thing they know definitively. I don't know about their travel protocols. I assume they were all wearing masks, but I don't know that. I mean,
They claim masks and face shields. They said they had the double.
that's pretty good. But then you get in the hotel rooms.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
They had
matter.
a
It doesn't.
COVID positive person on their team charter, and the other team goes, "We don't think it's safe to play you," and the first team goes, "Why not?"
The challenge with all of this is we know full and well on every team there's a COVID positive player, whether they've tested or not. I mean, that's the thing where it does. I'm not saying Dabo Swinney is right, but in some ways you start to, part of me wants to call Florida State a little bit on it and to be like, so this is the thing, like this is the one, because the reality is it's everywhere. And this is part of, I agree. Florida State should say, we're not playing, screw you. And they should say, screw you just because you got it wrong. Right. I mean, in some ways it's kind of like giving them a finger. I agree, but I think there's hypocrisy everywhere in this one. I think there are definitely players that are traveling asymptomatic. Now, the fact that they brought a player who was showing symptoms on the plane, on the trip, seems beyond I don't understand. I don't understand the thought process.
Apparently there was a negative test, the last time they were tested during the week, whether it was Wednesday or Thursday, whenever this player was negative. And then Friday morning before they left, everyone got tested. And then they got the results back later that day and he was positive. I'm going to tell you one thing. I got burned by something like this. I clearly will not go into this, but that lag it's tough. Like you deal with some things and you make some decisions and I get it, but Clemson has to go home. And by the way, the only thing I will say, does this impact Clemson's ability to go to the national championship? Probably not. No.
All right, then who cares? Who cares?
I go back to the same thing I go back to with college basketball. Optics, and example. And I know people hate that word because they think it's theater. And in a way, it is theater.
Yeah.
But do the right thing, set the right example. There are way too many people in this nation that do not believe the pandemic is serious, that say things like, but it's 99% survivable. Sorry, I did the accent. Does
everyone that says that, did they all try out for a role on Hee Haw?
That say things like, it's just the flu.
The extras on the movie Deliverance.
Like they say things like it's just the flu. And
the 1%, the 99 versus 1% is still awful because you multiply 1% times 330 million people and it's a bad number.
It's just such a stupid argument. Yes. Food poisoning is 99% survivable too. You gonna eat the salmonella chicken? Like,
well, all right. So how about this? Let's take, all right. What's your dream restaurant? The restaurant you love food. You love food.
Yeah. Right now, 11 Madison Park in New York City. 11 Madison Park.
11 Madison Park. And give me a cost per plate, kind of. What's your evening out at that restaurant?
Well, so it's a fixed price tasting menu.
Sure,
and it's quite a few $100s a person. I believe at last check it's about $650 a person.
Okay. All right. It's an elegant situation. It is
arguably the best restaurant in the world. It's in the world top 10.
Is it hard to get a reservation? Not right now. It's not.
Not right now. It's not. It's not easy, but it's not overly difficult. It's not you have to wait like 2 years. They've been open for a while.
I mean, I'll ask a stupid question. Are they doing curbside?
I don't know, but actually a lot of those high-end New York restaurants they weren't necessarily selling prepared foods, but they were selling their raw ingredients. Like they're like super high-end.
I'm not paying $600. I'm not getting $600 for something I have to heat up in a microwave.
No, I don't think it was quite that expensive, but they had all their provisions and they were trying to help, keep their supply chain in order. So they would actually, sell.
We did that at Panera. We were buying milk from Panera at some point.
I'm sure it was exactly the same.
Well,
so anyway, I don't know where you're going with this, but
here's where I'm going with this. So that's your restaurant.
I get to go there, but I get food poisoning. Am I still going to go?
No. You can go there free of charge, but there is a 1% chance you will get, not that you'll die, but a 1% chance you'll get food poisoning. You go?
It's an interesting one. I might actually go, but that's not the same thing as the argument that we're talking about, by the way.
I understand that. I'm saying, what's the percentage at which you say, no, I'm not going there?
1% chance I get food. Now, I've had food poisoning. It's not pleasant.
No, it's very unpleasant. Very unpleasant.
So
and
honestly,
you'll see that food again is what would happen.
There would have to be like some sort of sweetener in there. Like, would the meal be free?
Yes, the meal's free. Meal's free.
I'd probably take the risk.
All right.
Would you?
No, I don't want to get food. I mean, I have no interest. First of all, I don't appreciate that the food doesn't. I've gone to restaurants like that. Not that, like the $200-$300 plate kind of thing. And I didn't appreciate. I didn't appreciate it all. I was like, can we get more rolls?
But no, I don't mean that specific restaurant. I mean, whatever your favorite or dream food experience is.
No, because my dream food experience is highly. My dream food experience is like a couple ding dongs and a bag of Cheetos. Like here's the difference. You may never go to that restaurant. I'm going to live my dream food experience right after the show.
I don't.
Like I was dreaming before we got on the air.
I feel sorry for you again. Last thing I want to talk about. In December, there is a father-son golf tournament, a professional father-son golf tournament where famous golfers play with family members. This year, for the first time, Tiger Woods is going to participate in the PNC Challenge with his 11-year-old son, Charlie. And this has already set off a firestorm in the media of people that are intrigued to see 11-year-old Charlie Woods on television. We in this program and programs past have talked a lot about children being exploited to be on TV, Little League World Series, things of that nature. Sure. I don't think that applies in this case because Tiger Woods knows everything there is to know about expectations in golf. He was a child prodigy. His father is someone who said, my son is going to be the best golfer in the world.
Sure. And
his son became the best golfer in the world. Tiger Woods would not put his 11-year-old son in this situation unless he was darn good. So I think Keith, a coronation is coming. I think we're going to have a new king.
It's interesting because I know absolutely the prodigies that we've seen coming recently have come more from basketball. And that seems to be where we're looking at heir apparents, whether it's LeBron's son or, obviously Steph Curry kind of led that charge. So we haven't really paid a whole lot. Look, first, we haven't paid a ton of attention to Tiger Woods anyway, in general, right? I mean, relatively speaking to what we did in his glory days when his kids were much younger. So it's not like we have been glued to Tiger Woods like we were fascinated with Tiger Woods, earlier in his career. I don't know. I mean, now tell me a little bit more about these tournaments. Tell me what's
so this isn't a very serious tournament. It's like a made for TV event. A lot of people that play in it just don't play in it to try to win. They just play because it's a fun thing. You get a lot of older golfers, a lot of senior, golfers that play with their, teenage or college age sons.
So this isn't a competitive situation at all.
No, I mean, it is like it's scored and there's a trophy involved, but it's more of a fun kind of made for TV event. But that said, Tiger Woods has to know that by putting his kid in this event, that his kid, every single shot this kid hits is going to be shown on NBC and not NBC 7 that you have to find up in the 700s of your NBC, the one right next to ABC and CBS.
I don't think it's going to be
putting his kid into the fire.
I don't think it's going to be on For the Fans. So you would assume that Tiger would not want to put his child through this, right?
Exactly.
And to watch his kid shoot a 150, right?
Exactly.
Because then he will be a meme and he will be, right? All of these things that he wouldn't want to put but for all that, look, Tiger deserves a lot of criticism for potentially how he lived his personal life. I don't think anyone has nothing, not that I've heard, there hasn't been any real critique of how he's dealt with his children. And it seems like other than the situation he put them in, to start with, but in terms of how, which became a little awkward, but in terms of how he's kind of protected his family, it does seem, and also even just, dealing with his kids in obviously a challenging marriage situation, it does seem as though he has done all of the right things, at least from our external gaze. So he, in no way has he ever seemed to exploit his kids. And you're probably right. You're probably, but what if he's not? Now, how about this? Two things. First, what if he's not? What if he's terrible? Like this could what if it's like he can't sing? Like it's like the ability, you get a kid and it's like Billy Joel's kid. Can she sing? Like everyone was worried about that. That's A. But what about this? Let's walk through this scenario.
Okay.
What if they go out and they play and Tiger's all excited, right? My son, I'm going to show how great he is. All of a sudden, Tiger's not having a great day. He's fumbling around. National TV. This kid's lighting it up. Just, you see where I'm going here.
I do.
What if all of a sudden Tiger is losing to his son and Tiger's trying?
Well, so they're teammates, so they can't lose to each other.
Oh, is it like a best ball situation?
It's a scramble. So it's a scramble. So yeah, I mean, again, it's not the most serious of golf tournaments.
All right, but I'm just saying, but what if? But just play with me on this. All right?
Okay. Yeah, Tiger's playing bad. Son, 11-year-old Charlie's playing great,
and he beats him on national TV.
Okay.
Look, you can say whatever you want. There's no dad wants to look. I can tell you as someone who is destroying his 10-year-old in chess every opportunity. Destroying. Right. And almost flubbed the game a few weeks ago. You know, expose my king. And really, I mean, when in that moment before he made his next move, I was having heart palpitations. Like, how am I going to deal with this? Right. So no one, look, I can remember the first time I beat my dad in tennis. He didn't take it well. Like, no one likes you. Of course, I don't imagine you ever played sports with your parents. I can.
Golf. Me and my dad play golf all the time.
All right. So the first time you beat your dad, how did that go?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. But here's the difference between regular folks like us and Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has nothing left to prove to anybody. His legacy as the greatest or one of the greatest golfers of all time is 100% secure.
I think he's still angry
he's
when
not,
he loses.
No. Most dads are trying to prove that they still got it.
Yes.
Can't beat me. Tiger Woods does not need to convince anyone that he is good at golf. So to me, it almost speaks more highly of Tiger Woods' golfing ability if his 11-year-old son on national television can beat him. It says, not only am I the greatest of all time, I raised someone better than me.
My gene pool is so spectacular. Great. Yeah.
If Charlie beats Tiger, it makes Tiger more great.
It continues on. It continues on. The legacy continues on. Isn't that what everyone wants?
You thought I was on the downslope of my career? Next one's coming.
By
the way, he'll hit his prime in 25 years. Good luck then.
And I will tell you this. I mean, I imagine he has good equipment and has the benefit of some good coaching. So
probably didn't learn a lot of bad habits, unlike all the people that make this show happen. Thanks for hanging out with us on this edition of Sportish. That's all the time we got. I want to thank our producer, Mike Wallace, my co-host, Dr. Keith Strudler from Montclair State University. My name is Geoff Brault. We are wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving. If you want us to have gratitude toward you, when you listen to the podcast version of this program, 5 stars, a little review, we'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. Until then, we'll see you next week on For the Fans. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.